apartheid's demise, South Africa embarked on a journey of transformation, with newfound opportunities emerging for its historically marginalized black population. One of the most striking manifestations of this transformation has been the rise of black industrialization and entrepreneurship, symbolizing resilience, determination, and economic empowerment. Black industrialists seized the opportunity to enter previously inaccessible markets.
So, Isabi Jewelry Design started in 2017. Before that, I just was trying out to see how the business thing can go. And then 2020, that's when it officially started. And because I wanted to do employment, then I was like, why not start my own thing? Yeah, and then my logo is inspired by a lotus flower, of which it was because of a program that I did at Design at 50. So that inspired me to do a tribute to my late parents using the symbol of a lotus flower. So growing up, my mom used to sell honey jewelry. So I used to page through the pages of those catalogs, and I got inspired as to how do they do those things. Curiosity led me to do jewelry design, because straight after matric I went to a TUT, open day, and then as I saw those flames flaring and making the jewelry, I was like, this is where I belong, and my journey started there. When I started my business officially 2020, I didn't have any funding, so I used the savings that I had from the GDP programs that I used to do for 2 years. And then immediately after that, I just started my business with those funding, the savings, that I had. So I also had pieces from Varsity that I had to remelt and recreate some of the pieces that you see here. We get it from suppliers, and then I was also part of ED, Enterprise Development Program of Rand Refinery. So they gave us like a silver loan mentorship. So, and the silver that I have here on display is part of the silver that I got from the mentorship.
I'm Vinay Sumero. I'm the founder and CEO of Isondo Precious Metals. The name Isondo means the wheel in Zulu. It was the name of my syndicate group at the University of Cape Town when I did my MBA. And the idea was Isondo, the concept behind Isondo was we the hub, and we create business plans that drives the green energy industry in South Africa forward, and each business plan is the spoke that drives the country forward. So that's the story behind how Isondo was, or the name Isondo was created. So Isondo is basically leading the way in terms of the green hydrogen revolution in the country. We have two massive projects. The first one is manufacturing of platinum group metal catalysts and membrane electrode assemblies for fuel cells and electrolyzers. So basically we're taking our precious metals and we're beneficiating it up the value chain into products that will support the green hydrogen industry worldwide. So that's a very, very project we're very proud of. But the second project is equally interesting. We have access to 7 tons of hydrogen every day in Johannesburg, green to the extent it's powered by solar energy. And this can create a project where we roll out refueling stations across Gauteng and run more than 400 fuel cell buses and trucks today at a price that is already equivalent to diesel. So it is a fantastic hydrogen deployment project. It creates a basis to actually start to assemble these vehicles in the country. And if we go into local vehicle assembly for fuel cell vehicles, then we can use the products from our catalyst and MEA production in these vehicles. So the two projects are then well integrated. The public-private partnership has been superb. I'll go as far as saying that Isondo would not have got to this level of execution if it wasn't for the support from the state, from the DTIC, from the Gauteng province, from the Gauteng Industrial Development Zone. Without the support from them, we would not have got to this level of execution. So in these kinds of industries where you're kickstarting something new, you're not going to easily get private sector support. So in the initial stages, state support is very, very crucial to get it up to a level where it's starting to become, let's say, commercial. At that stage, you can then attract other kind of funders and other kind of investors. But if we didn't have the support of the state, we would not have got to this stage of execution. And the stage of execution means our MEA manufacturing project, for example, is one of the biggest in the world. We'll be able to produce up to 18 million MEAs per annum, up to 40 tons of platinum group metal catalysts per annum at the OR Tambo Special Economic Zone. We have a program where we're taking young HTSA graduates, we're training them under the the leading experts in the world, so we're creating employment for a young skilled workforce. So the public-private partnership aspect has been brilliant in terms of how it's been able to bring us to this level, but the value it's bringing, especially to our youngsters that are coming out of university now. And we're obviously very much a commercially focused organization. The whole business proposition is based on taking our precious metals and creating these core components that the world needs. So that, and because we early to market, it means we can capture a fair portion of the market and via that make a decent profit. But that profit then goes into social entrepreneurship. You start buying local, you start creating employment around you, and then you start training the youngsters in this field. So create a core of young diplomats, graduates, technicians that are able to work in the green hydrogen industry in the country, but also worldwide. So from that point of view, it's a nice alignment of, capitalism and also social entrepreneurship. I'm actually very, very excited about this project.
My name is Nomakabiso Mbepo. I'm the founder and the director of Ubuya Integrated Development Agents. The company established in 2018 in August. I started to have a passion in gemstones. I cut and polish gemstones, by the way, from ruby, amethyst, any kind of precious gemstones. I started to have a passion in gemstones whilst I was in Madagascar. My husband was working at the embassy in Madagascar that side, so I did a course, a gemology course. And then after a gemology course, I did the lapidary course, which is the one that's dealing with cutting and polishing gemstones. Yes, so now I came here in South Africa in 2019. I started to operate here in South Africa, but the COVID came, and then I stopped up until 2022. I started again, and then until now. So now it's the new company, but at least this year there's a light inside the tunnel. We can see that there's a light inside the tunnel. And now also the vision is I want to mix the gemstones with the beads, South African beads. So now I'm trying to find the ladies, especially the young ladies that I can work with who are making beads, traditional beads, so that we can mix the beads, our cultural beads, and the gemstones, and then we'll take it outside of South Africa. We'll spread that to the world, because when you go to Europe, let's say even in the US, you'll find the people there, they love our craft. So if we can mix it with the gemstones, I think we can make it. I fund it by myself at the moment. I'm using the second-hand machines, but I'm still talking to I'm not sure if it's the right people in the government, but I'm still trying to get the funding. I was invited here by the SADPMR. 2 weeks back, I was invited to an exhibition in Hong Kong. Yes, so let's hope that the government will see the need to fund HIDA. Yes.
Minister, the turnout here is absolutely brilliant. There are a lot of people. They've stayed throughout the day. They got here very, very early. But if there's one thing that I'd like you to talk about, is just to share with us just what the numbers are. I remember back in 2016, reading the headlines, and I was still on radio then, and this program was being launched, and was saying we want to have 100 black industrialists. What are the numbers now?
Andile, it's a fascinating story, because when we announced we wanted to do 100 black industrialists, there was enormous skepticism in society. Would they be able to achieve that? And I remember at the time questions being asked in Parliament, have you got to 10 black industrialists? Today, we've got to a point where we've made significant progress. We're not where we want to be, but we're a much further point than we were. And I'm going to use the screen to give you an indication of where we are now.
Could the team put up the slides, please?
And I'm going to ask one of my team members. There we are. So what this shows then is, if we go, there we are. So Andile, you'll see here 1,714 black industrialist firms that are supported by the DTIC group.
Right.
And this is, of course, many of them are here today. This is not the full universe of black industrialists.
What do you mean?
There are black industrialists that are not part of the direct support programs that the DTIC and its partners do, but they benefit from, say, the BEE codes.
Got you.
Companies are obliged under the codes to give some indication of the extent of using black companies. So we don't count that yet.
Okay.
We're on a program just to count some of this. So I'll give you an idea of what this would cover. But it's not just funding.
So, and talking about funding, the next question, I guess, is 1,714. You know, Minister, my job here today is to recognize key moments in a conversation. Can we just give a round of applause to 1,714? I think that's a big deal, especially when people didn't think you'll make 100. Where does the money come from?
So the money comes from different sources. Here on the screen, you'll see what we've done is we've taken a black industrialist may get a bit of support from the DTIC, maybe in the form of grant funding that helps them to put their business plan together. They could then get the more serious money from the IDC in the form of a loan or from the NEF. So we've tried to avoid duplication.
Okay.
So these are net figures having taken duplicates out. So here you've got about 410 firms that are supported by the IDC, 510 by the National Empowerment Fund, and 270 that get direct support from the DTIC, the department. Some of that would be in a grant. Some of it would be to pay for the exhibition that goes on an export mission. Maybe there's a food fair in Korea, and we've got to try to break into the Korean market, and we help black industrialists then to get there. But interestingly is this last number. Some 500 firms are supported either by partner funds or by regulator support. And a partner fund, let's say PepsiCo does a deal in South Africa, they buy Pioneer Foods. One of the conditions that would be put in place, typically, is that there's a supplier development fund where they support small businesses and black industrialists. Another example would be the Competition Commission would look at the insurance companies, discover that, hang on, all the panels are still the old panels that you've had forever. You know, it's not, the business has moved from father to son, but the same business stays there. That young panel beater from the township just has never been able to get onto that. So we've broken some markets open, and that's what we count in that roughly 500, actually 504.
504.
Well,
you know the exact number. But Minister, before you move from this slide, you saw the feedback from the poll. There is an overwhelming view, and I would add experience, that when we black entrepreneurs go to the banking sector, we don't get as much love as we get from our own government's DFIs. Now, all of us want to grow our businesses. We can't rely on DFIs for everything. At some points, you become at such scale, you want to go to a local bank that gives you support, that, as it does to any other business. That doesn't seem to be the average black business experience. What's your view on that?
I think there's a moment for some soul-searching by the commercial banks. South Africa has got Africa's largest banking infrastructure. We've got sophisticated banking services and facilities and know-how. And that has been forged in, let's call it, established business relationships. There's a market opportunity for the commercial banks to break a lot more in. Some of them are getting in there. We need them to scale it up.
Okay.
And they've got to be able to learn new ways of evaluating and pricing risk when they're talking about black industrialists. the old model imposed on the business of a black industrialist is just not going to cut it.
Okay, great. I'm glad that's your view. All right. We talked big numbers. We've talked high level. Let's talk about the things that everyday South Africans care about. And that's the lives and livelihoods of all South Africans. Where are the jobs?
So we've done a study. We've looked at the just over 1,700 black industrialists that we directly allocate to the kind of support the DTIC has. And looking at the jobs, the number of people that those black South African firms employ, 161,307. And then what we've looked at, the IDC did a study for us, looking at the economic multiplier. In other words, if you run let's say, a business in poultry farming, you're going to need a logistics service. You're going to need packaging. You're going to need a range of other services. And we estimated the indirect jobs as a result of that. And if we add those two together,
right,
it's 282,000 South Africans whose jobs are sustained effectively by the work of these black industrialists. This is not induced jobs. Induced jobs is another economic term where you say the money that is now spent by the workers of the black industrialists and the workers of their suppliers in turn creates even more jobs. We've just taken direct and indirect jobs. And that, I think, is something that South Africans don't know. Very often the storyline about black industrialists is a storyline of, well, we're supporting black industrialists. The truth is, increasingly, black industrialists are adding value to our economy. They're creating jobs for young people.
Got you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.